All right, on to Chapter 5. The title of Chapter 5 is Timeout, Redefining Naps, Activity and Recovery Harmony. In the beginning of this chapter, the author brings to our attention the fact that many of us experience a period in the day, typically known as the afternoon slump. This is where we might find ourselves nodding off to sleep and just feeling that urge or that pressure to fall asleep because we are really tired and that fatigue is setting in. And he's making the case in this chapter that this time of day, or if you look at our 24-hour circadian rhythm, is another entry point to have another period of sleep in order to recover mentally and physically. He is saying that the midday time is the most natural next recovery period that we may have in our 24-hour cycle, other than our normal nocturnal sleeping time that we have during the night. And so his whole idea is when the urge to sleep and the need to sleep collide, a natural time or entry point into taking the recovery that we need and getting some sleep in. And so he first makes a case that there have been some very famous or well-known people who did tend to take naps or sleep during the day. He mentions Napoleon was a well-known daytime sleeper, Bill Clinton, as well as Winston Churchill. He also does mention that anthropologists have done some studies and they've done some observations of people who are living in a more natural world. I think in Indonesia and maybe in South America, they observed these groups of people who are not living modern day lifestyles, and they observed that they do indeed sleep in a very polyphasic way. It's not just 8 hours of sleep in the night. They do sleep in the afternoon, maybe in the evening. And so he kind of gives us this graph, which I'll put on the screen over here. And he's saying that between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. there is a natural opening in your circadian rhythms that your body is increasing the urge to sleep, and therefore this offers a natural period in which to have a nap or a sleep during the daytime. And so he's saying this is a natural second sleep window that there is during the day, and he says you can fit in a full 90-minute sleep cycle, or else if that is not possible, you can do a 30-minute controlled recovery period. So that's an important thing I noticed in this chapter. He's trying to rebrand napping, because naps have some connotations of being lazy, and he kind of rephrased this and saying that they controlled recovery periods, and it just sounds like it's more of a strategic decision on an individual's part to take that time to sleep in order to recover so that they can be more productive. He does really go in and explain the power of, or there's a section in this chapter that he calls the power of the nap, and he mentions a study that was done at Düsseldorf University, and they worked with NASA pilots, and they basically found that taking short controlled naps during the day really did enhance the performance and memory processing power for the NASA astronauts, and they found that it improved performance by 34%, it improved alertness by 54%, and so these were 26-minute naps that the astronauts took, and so that was very interesting to read about. He mentions that in his personal experience working with elite athletes, they very often took 90 minutes or a full sleep cycle during the day in order to get that recovery, that physical and mental recovery in. And what he would do with his clients is use that time during the day, or that second opportunity for sleep window, to top up the sleep cycles for the week. So if for whatever reason on 2 or 3 nights in the week you got less cycles of sleep, then he would often in the weekly schedule try and top up the athlete's sleep by recommending a 90-minute sleep cycle in the afternoon. He does say the downside of taking a nap during the day, whether it's the 90-minute or the 30-minute nap, you might experience some form of sleep inertia, and that's just that grogginess that you feel once you've finished sleeping, and that just is a byproduct of taking a nap or a sleep during the day. Kind of hack that he suggests that you can try to kind of overcome this is to have a shot of espresso or some type of caffeine stimulant right before you have your 30-minute controlled recovery period. And because the caffeine takes 20 minutes to actually kick in, by the end of your sleep, your 30-minute sleep, when your alarm goes off for your 30 minutes, then the caffeine will be kicking in and will just help you combat that sleep inertia or grogginess. Yeah, and obviously he does mention again that using daylight might be a better option than caffeine in this point. So once you finish sleeping, just get up, get some sunlight in, and that can just help you fight off that sleep inertia. All right, next up, he kind of explains how you should be taking your controlled recovery periods. He mentions that when he was working at Manchester United, they introduced double training sessions in their pre-season, and so the physio and Alex Ferguson supported the idea of creating a dedicated recovery room at the training ground so that the athletes could go and take a full sleep cycle, a 90-minute cycle between training sessions, just to recover physically and mentally. And so that was incorporated into their training regime and their training facilities. He also mentions again that in the corporate world, if you're working in the corporate world or in a type of job where you're at office, they kind of rebranded it as a power nap to kind of move away from that connotation of like sleeping during the day makes you lazy. And so he's just saying that it has become a bit more widely accepted in the corporate world, especially with the introduction of wellness staff, well-being programs and that kind of thing. To take power naps during the day is actually beneficial for employees. And so he just kind of mentions a few ways for people who are working in an office environment to try and find a quiet office room, or maybe there's a couch in the staff room that you can just take a quick nap. He says in most cases a 90-minute sleep is not going to do the trick in that environment. If you take a 30-minute nap, try not, or don't do that. Don't sleep in your bed. You're going to sleep on a couch or in a chair somewhere other than the bed. And if you are taking that 90-minute recovery period, then that's okay. You can sleep in your bed if you have access to it. And even he mentions that even though 30 minutes seems like a short period of time and you might not actually fall asleep, don't discount the fact that you are actually getting some recovery in there. And so it just says like close your eyes, let go, maybe do a few breathing exercises and just like chill out for that 30 minutes, and you are going to reap benefits from that. In addition to that 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. window, he does mention that there is an early evening recovery period that is quite prevalent with the PM types, so the night owls, and this window is between 5 and 7 p.m. You could take and he recommends doing a 30-minute nap or controlled recovery period as opposed to a 90-minute nap or sleep, because that's going to interfere with your main sleep later on in the night. He mentions that as we get older, our sleep becomes more polyphasic anyway, and so taking these kind of naps is just kind of a natural thing as we get older. This evening period is just a more practical and convenient timing for people who are working in an office environment. So at 5 p.m. when you're done with work, have a 30-minute nap, and this could just help you stay fresher and just help recover after a day at work, and then you have the evening obviously to do whatever you need to do. Hand in hand with naps, he just talks a lot about the benefits of taking lots of breaks during the day, and just his point is that taking regular breaks throughout the day helps increase mental alertness and staying sharp. There was a Swedish researcher, Anders Ericsson, who really looked at elite or higher level performers or expert performers, and he found that they tend to engage in intense mental cognitive work or practice for at least an hour or for about an hour before they take a rest, and they find that taking that rest allows them to continue and stay focused during those periods where they are working. So the author suggests taking many micro breaks during the day. It helps your brain process info, and he says if you need to, try and set some reminders on your phone just to remind you to take some breaks. And he ends off this chapter with a section saying if you don't snooze, you lose, and his point is that if all the elite performers in the world and athletes are doing it, we should be doing it as in our everyday routines. It is only going to reap benefits to us, and he just kind of dismisses the myth that taking naps during the day or sleeping during the day makes you lazy. His point is that it can actually make you more productive during the day, and with companies like Google, who are really focused on making an environment for productive, happy employees, are integrating this kind of nap facilities and culture or sleeping during the day. If they accept that, then there's obviously some merit in this idea. So that's it for chapter 5.